There was a time in my life where I genuinely believed something was fundamentally wrong with me. My emotions felt bigger than everyone else's. Relationships felt heavier. Rejection felt unbearable. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't seem to react the way people expected me to or wanted me to. But what I didn't understand then was that I wasn't broken. I was experiencing something that had a name, and unfortunately a lot of stigma attached to it. Today, I want to talk about borderline personality disorder, beyond the label. Welcome back to Out Loud finally. I'm so glad you're here. I'll be honest, I recorded this episode once already, but it felt more like a lesson and not the actual lived-in experience. I underestimated how quickly I would use facts to protect my own vulnerability, but that isn't what this podcast is about. So this is my redo. And in this redo, I want to talk about what it felt like for me and what I've seen other people experience, and I guess how the world accepted me once I got diagnosed. You see, living with BPD, it feels like you see the world in HD. Everything is louder, lights are brighter, but sometimes that means that things get too loud and too bright, and that means you get overwhelmed. And yet you're told that your reaction is invalid, it's wrong, or you're just being too sensitive. And for a really long time, I believed that was true. I thought I was destined to be the monster society made me out to be. But that was until I met someone, and I saw some of myself in her, and I realised I'd never call her a monster, so did that mean I was never one? You see, BPD, it's been made out to be something it isn't. Something that it never was, and that's because of all the stigma and the lies. No one, for a very long time, really cared enough to ask the right questions. I know for one, the main thing I got asked is, why are you this sensitive? But what I really needed to be asked is, what are you carrying that's causing this much pain? And I think what made it worse for me is, when I got diagnosed, there wasn't a lot of accurate information out there. And I'll be super honest and say, I was absolutely let down by the system. They just threw this label on me and left me to figure out on my own. And it was the first time I'd ever even heard the phrase borderline personality disorder. So I was left with my own devices, searching up on the internet, what is BPD? And because of that, I learned who I was from a society that had no idea. It took a very long time for me to finally be heard and finally be told this isn't what BPD is. Because the first thing you'll see online is that we're manipulative, we're narcissistic, we're just bad people in general. But isn't it the foundations of who you are that makes you good or bad, not a label that's been slapped on you? But it's hard when you're trying to grasp the reality of your situation and your life, and no one's really telling you what it is. They're just telling you you have it. But it feels good for me personally to now be able to say that BPD or the label is not what makes you bad. It's just who you are as a person. There's so many people in this world who are awful and they don't have BPD. Granted, there are some awful people that do have the diagnosis, but it isn't the diagnosis that makes you bad. And I can't stress that enough. I think people, they have a really hard time understanding what BPD is. You know, you can sit there and tell them It means that I don't regulate my emotions the same way as you. They can't quite grasp what that feels like. And I don't know about other people, but for me, it sort of feels like constantly waiting for the bucket to spill over. I mean, I've been on such a long journey, don't get me wrong, and one that has led me to finally have more control. But it doesn't stop the dread. I mean, I still find myself waking up wondering, is today the day it all falls down? Because that's what this disorder does. It forces you to live in survival mode, to question yourself. Question whether your responses and emotions are you or your BPD. I'm so blessed to be in the position that I am today, to be able to confidently say that I am not the same girl who had her BPD control her, but I control it now. And that's something that I never thought I would say. And what makes it even worse is for myself and a few other people that I know, when we were all diagnosed, it was basically said to us like, this was it, like this is the rest of our lives. And I didn't realize until recently that that is not the case. In fact, BPD has one of the highest rates of recovery amongst serious mental health conditions. And I'm very happy that I've learned that now, but why couldn't we have been told this before? You get thrown into the deep end of something, and it's like you've never swam in your life. You don't have armbands, you don't have anything to float with. You're just thrown in, and you're expected to know how to swim. And so being told you can do it, given some instructions on how to swim, is the hope you need. And that's exactly what it feels like would have happened for myself and so many people had we have been told that this isn't life. This isn't like a death sentence. And I realize still that there's so many people living with it that believe that there's no hope for them. But there is so much hope. I describe BPD as beautifully painful. And that might sound really confusing, but once I explain, hopefully you'll understand a bit more. It's beautiful because we experience things on a deeper level. We love wholeheartedly. We are so fierce with our loyalty. And I know for a fact that many people with BPD would go above and beyond to ensure someone was happy. But at the same time, those are the same things that create us so much pain. With love comes fear. Loyalty brings disappointment. And our willingness to protect the ones we love can often not be matched, and not because we aren't worth it, and not because the other person doesn't want to, but in order to fulfill things the way that we can would mean that they would have had to have experienced it too. And that's just not the case, although it is proven that BPD is so underdiagnosed. There's so many people out there right now that don't have the diagnosis like put down, but they have it. And living with BPD without support, understanding, it genuinely is one of the most draining things a human can go through. And that might sound dramatic, but unless you've been there, you will never be able to understand. And I wouldn't want you to. There are amazing things that come with BPD. Like, I know for a fact that myself and a lot of other people with BPD carry so much empathy and compassion. One of the stigmas is that we don't care about people, that we only care about ourselves, but that couldn't be more inaccurate. We care so much to the point where it hurts us. And it's not that we care too much, it's the fact that we don't know how to lower the intensity. It's like our emotions and everything is like a volume dial. Your average person's might be dialed up to 5. But someone with BPD, theirs is dialed up to 8 or 9. And it's not the fact that the dial is broken for us, it's the fact that it's just dialed up a little bit higher. And that's another thing. People seem to have this crazy belief that we are just broken. We are too much and there's no point trying. But I can promise you, trying and fighting for someone with BPD is one of the greatest blessings. Because not only are you giving us something that we truly want, and that's real connection and real safety, but you're also allowing yourself to be able to experience the good side of us. You know, granted, we have fear of abandonment, and that can be really intense for anyone, for us, and for someone who's around us in those moments. I'm not saying that it isn't difficult, but what I am saying is it's worth it. I wholeheartedly believe that it's worth it. Because there isn't anything that we can't do. Just because our brains function differently, it doesn't mean that we can't achieve the same way you or anyone else can. I think personally, the friendships that I have with people that have BPD as well are the most meaningful ones that I have. It's those people that if I messaged them and I messaged a different friend at the same time, they would always be the first one to reply. Always. And the reason for that is when you have battled for so long with feeling alone and like you have no place, you don't want that for anyone else. So the second that you're able to help and prevent that, we take it. Or most people that I know absolutely take it, because we wouldn't wish that feeling on anyone. We know what it's like. And it's awful. There's other words I would love to use to describe it, but we can't use those kind of words. And it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but studies literally show that some people with BPD have brains that literally function differently, like the prefrontal cortex. Research suggests that activity in there may be reduced during emotional stress, which means that logical regulation is overpowered by emotions in that moment for somebody who has BPD. So it isn't just a case of, oh, we want to react like that, so we choose to. It really isn't. And I can't stress that enough. No one would choose to wake up in the morning and feel the way that we feel. If you did, well, that's a whole different disorder, which I am not touching because I would not do it justice. And the other, like, so many people with BPD, it stems from childhood trauma or invalidation. I will say not everyone with BPD has experienced trauma, but a significant amount have. And so what you're seeing as an overreaction, what's actually happening for us is something that has happened in that moment has triggered an uncomfortable feeling that stems back to that trauma, a trauma that we might not have dealt with, or it's triggered something that we were taught. And so in that moment, we're not just dealing with the uncomfortable feeling that is presented right in front of us, but we're dealing with a lifetime of pain that some people have been forced to shove down and ignore, or something so deeply wounding that to face it feels impossible. So no, we're not just reacting to the fact that you didn't say the I in I love you. We're reacting to the abandonment side of it, the times where we weren't told that we were loved when we needed it the most. That's what we're really reacting to. And I think people would benefit so much more, both BPD and not, if you just asked questions. It's not difficult to instead assume. Just simply ask, what's going on for you right now? What are you carrying that is making this moment so painful for you? Always, always ask. If you don't understand, just ask. You know, for a long, long time, I only heard what was wrong with BPD. I rarely ever heard what was human about it. And there are so many things that people with BPD can do that is just remarkable. We have this ability to connect with other people's experiences. I'm not saying we have lived everyone's experience, but what I am saying is, because we have had to navigate intense emotions, we can recognize them in others before they're even spoken. You know, that noticing subtle mood shifts or just sensing when someone isn't okay. And that is something that not a lot of people can do. And I think it's so beautiful that we're able to do that. The fact that we have felt emotions so deeply that we have learned how to recognize them in others. It gives us a different viewpoint on the world. We have a different way of helping. And instead of calling us crazy and putting us down, if you just gave us a chance and actually got to know us, you would see all of that. You would see how fiercely we care, how loyal we are, how close and deeply invested we become in someone. People with BPD, they don't love lightly. They love fully and wholeheartedly. And another thing, people with BPD are so creative. Like, it's actually insane, like low-key insane. Some of the things that I have seen BPD people create is beautiful, absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. The way they can story tell or create an art piece, write something, create music. It's basically the same emotional depth that hurts us can also create the most beautiful things. And don't ever underestimate what someone with BPD can achieve in terms of artistic. Because honestly, I doubted myself for a very long time, and then I realized, hey, I am a little bit creative. Don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm a little bit creative. And I bet any BPD person you sit down with, they will have an amazing creative side. And there's so much self-awareness in BPD. Like, we fully understand what is going on. We analyze our thoughts deeper than anyone ever could imagine, and we reflect on behavior quicker than anyone else. And that, I think that's sometimes what makes it more painful, is that it's like stepping out of your body for a second, and you're watching yourself react to something, and you're shouting, please don't. This isn't how you need to react. But in that moment, it's impossible. Well, not impossible, but it can feel that way in the moment. It's like screaming at yourself and begging yourself to stop, but you just can't. Like, your body is being driven by something else. It doesn't mean we're dangerous. It doesn't mean we're out of control. It just means we are filled with fear in that moment. And I can't express to you how scary it actually is to not be able to control your own emotions. You know, sadness for us isn't sadness. It's deep and you feel it physically in your body. Like with me, when I'm really, really sad, I feel it right in my chest. And it's like I can't breathe. And somebody is like punching my stomach over and over and over again. That's the only way I can describe how sadness is for me. Just being sad doesn't exist. It just doesn't for us. But in the same breath, when we're happy, oh my goodness, it's incredible. Being happy when you have BPD is just, it's beautiful. It's scary, but it's beautiful. And the reason I say it's scary is because you are so blissfully aware. But blissfully, that's the wrong word. You are actively aware that what you're feeling in that moment isn't going to last forever. Just like a normal person, no one's happy forever. And when you go from such a high to such a low, it amplifies it so much more. But that is why we are so resilient. We live with intense emotions. Ordinary days take extraordinary effort for us. Surviving emotional intensity builds a strength most people never have to develop. And I say have to develop because we have no choice. We absolutely have no choice but to be strong-ass mofos. And we don't want to have to be that strong. We didn't choose to have to be this strong, but lo and behold, these are the cards we're dealt. And it is devastating how many people lose their lives due to this disorder. Absolutely devastating. And it breaks my heart because in those moments, people, they don't realize how incredible they are. They really don't, because people with BPD are incredible. The things that we have to wake up and get through on a day-to-day basis, it's remarkable. I don't know how we do it. And that's coming from someone who has had like 4 or 5 years to learn all about it, deal with it, therapy. I still don't understand where we find it, but we do. And if you are someone with BPD right now listening and you're like, I don't have strength, you do. You do. Never underestimate your own strength. Because I promise you, one day you are going to get to a place and you're going to look back and just like me, you're going to think, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And on that day, the tears that you will shed out of pride is insane, but it will be the best feeling, I promise you. Oh, before I go off on another, well, I say before, I'm going to go off on another tangent about BPD and another great thing that comes with it. We have such a strong sense of justice and compassion. Like, a lot of people could see an injustice happening on the street, right? Most people aren't going to jump in. 9 times out of 10, someone with BPD will feel that the situation that's happening is too unfair to ignore. We stand up for people. We advocate for vulnerable people because we have been those vulnerable people. We have been those people that needed someone to stand up for us. And I find it just so incredible. The amount of times someone has said to me, don't get involved, it's not your fight. But it is my fight. Someone being mistreated is my fight. BPD or not, any situation, it is and it always will be my fight. because I wish somebody had chosen my fight and joined me with it. But it took a long time for that to happen, so I'll be damned if I don't join in on someone else's. And I know a lot of people who are the same. And it's awesome. I won't lie, it's awesome. I love the power behind us. We are a force to be reckoned with when we want to be. I'm not saying that BPD is all bright lights and fairy tales, because it's not. As I said in the beginning, it's not. I'd be lying if I said to you I wake up every day and I'm glad I have it, because I'm not. Although I don't know if I would choose not to have it. Because with the bad has come good. Yeah. That's a deep thought even for me. Would I choose to not have BPD? I don't think I would. I think I'd keep it. But anyway, that's for my personal time. You know, one of the biggest myths is that people with BPD are dangerous. But we are more likely to hurt ourselves than anyone else. That's just fact. Don't get me wrong, there's people with BPD out there that do awful things and hurt people in awful ways, but a majority of us, just like a majority of humankind, although what's going on in the world right now doesn't show it, but that's not for me to get into. But we wouldn't choose to hurt someone. We would rather hurt ourselves than other people. And if anything, we become more vulnerable to being hurt because we spend our time, like I said earlier, questioning ourselves, questioning our emotions and our responses. That if someone tells us we're wrong, chances are we're going to believe that, and people end up getting away with things because, we're not easy to manipulate. That's the wrong word, because we're not, and don't try it. But we are so scared of getting it wrong that even when we're right, it's easier to accept that we're not, I don't know one person with BPD that hasn't been hurt in one way or another because they have BPD. People take it and they run with it, and they make a reality into a fairy tale that suits them. And that sucks because we are already questioning everything. But like I said, recovery rates are so high that isn't forever. This isn't forever. I cannot stress to you that this isn't forever. I'm not saying it will 100% go away and you'll never feel a thing, but it can become so quiet that it's not there anymore. And some people have it literally wiped off of their records because they have recovered that much. That's what I'm aiming for. But I will never understand why we can't be accepted as humans. It's almost like we're something else, like we're aliens, and we're not. We're humans, we're just like you, we just see the world differently. And that's okay. We don't have to see the world the same as you to be worth just as much. If you are someone that is actively trying to support someone that has BPD, I'm gonna give a few tips that have worked for me and a few of my friends. It's not a universal thing. It doesn't mean it's gonna help everyone, but anyway. I would always recommend validating emotions. Never ever tell someone with BPD that they're overthinking or overreacting, because you don't have to agree with the emotion to validate it. Saying things like, I can see this is really upsetting for you, that's not telling us what you're feeling is absolutely correct. This is the reality of the situation, blah, blah, blah. But it's saying, I see that you are affected by this. By telling us that we're overthinking or overreacting, it's minimizing what is a very big reality for us in that moment. And that just adds fuel to the fire. Always be consistent as well. Please, 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 please be consistent. Small things matter to us. We pick up on the small things more than we do the big things, I would say. Replying when you say you will and keeping plans. Clear communication. Because being unpredictable creates an unsafe environment for us, and that is when BPD flares up big time. It thrives on unsafe, whether it's perceived or what. If the brain feels like it's unsafe, the BPD is so going to be on your case. And also, don't be afraid to ask someone what support looks like for them. Just simply asking, do you want reassurance, advice, or just someone to listen? Because what I might prefer, somebody else might not. And that just goes for everything in society, not just BPD. Mental health, no mental health. Just ask. Because assuming that you know how somebody wants to be helped usually doesn't end very well for anyone. Please try to stay calm during emotional moments. Heightened emotions from us isn't us trying to manipulate you, it's us being extremely scared in that moment. It comes from fear and overwhelming, and you being calm actually helps regulate us. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying if we're definitely 100% in the wrong, you have every right to set that boundary and say that we are wrong, no matter what. But if you can see that maybe our reaction is a little bit more heightened than you expected, don't meet that reaction. And please don't threaten to withdraw. Saying things like, I'm done or I can't deal with you, is such a big trigger for abandonment fears. You're okay. You're allowed to set a boundary and say, this is too much for me right now. I need to take a second. You're allowed to say, hey, I'm not abandoning you. I just need some time. We can understand that. But if you leave the door open just a little bit for us to think you're not coming back, our brain will think you're not coming back. And that's a very painful experience for us. And please don't try to fix everything. Oftentimes, presence means more to us than solutions, because not everything needs to have a solution. Not everything needs to be fixed. Sometimes just giving us a safe place to land is more than enough. I want to stress these next few sentences very, very, very deeply. People with BPD aren't difficult to love. We've just spent a long time feeling difficult to understand. And so when you choose to come into our lives, please make sure that you are sure. Because we have spent half of our lives feeling misunderstood. If you can, please don't add to that. As I said a few times in this podcast, I'm so blessed to know a few people that have BPD. And 2 of them agreed to let me say something on their behalf. So I asked them both very different questions. One, I asked, what's something you would like people to know about BPD? And she said, I wish people could just understand how misunderstood we are. That our emotions are so intense, we literally feel them physically. That we have so much love in our hearts, but sometimes act out of character due to fear. I also wish people knew that there is hope for us. We aren't lost causes and things can get better. And I second that wholeheartedly. It couldn't be further from the truth. Now, this next one, this will showcase exactly what I mean about creativity, because what this amazing woman sent me to share with you guys is beautiful and so honest. I asked her what living with BPD feels like for her. And this is something she sent me. Living with BPD is like feeling with no filter. Every emotion hits at full force, and love feels like drowning in devotion. Abandonment feels like death in slow motion, and yet people still ask, why are you so sensitive? Because I am sensitive, not fragile, but raw. I notice what others miss. I care when others walk away. I remember every word, every silence, every shift in tone, and I carry it all like it means something, because to me it does. It's exhausting to love like this, to hurt like this, to wake up already feeling too much and still find the strength to stay in the world, to fight off the voices in my head that tell me I'm too intense, too dramatic, too hard to love. But here's what I know deep down. Even in the chaos, there's beauty in this depth, in how fiercely I care, in how loyal I am even when I'm breaking, in how I still hope for connection even after being torn apart by it. Today I feel alone, like no one sees me, like no one really understands how much it takes just to hold myself together. But even in this darkness, I'm still writing, still reaching, still trying. And maybe that's enough for now. And I wish I could express the same way she did, because that is just beautiful and accurate. Before I close out today, I wanted to leave this on a message for those with BPD, without BPD. If you're trying to understand BPD, please know that BPD is not a life sentence. It's not a character flaw, and it is not the entirety of who someone is. Behind every diagnosis is a person trying to feel safe in a world that sometimes feels overwhelming. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your hardest days. And you are not beyond understanding. You are human, and maybe understanding begins when we stop asking why someone feels so much and start asking what they've carried. BPD doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you broken. It doesn't mean that this is it. It means, yeah, you have a long road ahead, but a worthy one. One that I so desperately want you to keep walking. Because progress doesn't have to look like perfection. You don't have to have a good day every day. But please don't stop trying. Do not give up on yourself, because you are worth it. If there's one thing I wish people knew about BPD from my perspective, it's that just like everyone else, we just need a little love. We just need to know that we're safe. If you see yourself in this episode, I want you to know this. You are not too much, and you never were. You are perfectly imperfect. And don't let anyone change you. Until next time, keep saying things out loud, finally.